What is going on YouTube? This is Platinum Point, and I'm here to bring you guys something a little bit different from a normal video. So this idea I'm borrowing from my buddy Jack from 36 Cancel. This is kind of a table tech talk where I go through just putting together the deck and showcasing kind of my thought process as I deck build and deck construct, because well, with Weiss, there's a lot of theory that goes on with this game, not just in playing, but in deck construction. All card games have this, but with Weiss, it's a little bit more tricky because since you do have the benefit of refreshing your deck, you want to kind of cater your deck to where you have a healthy balance of utility as well as speed, because your goal normally in the game is to get to first refresh before you hit level, before you... Usually, ideally, mid-level 1 is the standard, but you can usually either hit it early or later. But the goal is to get the closest to it before hitting level 2. So, Weiss does have that kind of those sets of like caveats that you have to consider. And what better way to showcase this than with my favorite series ever, Data Life. I do happen to have it in, where is it? I do have it with me in Japanese. If I can only find the deck. Oh shoot. But yeah, I do happen to have it in Japanese, and it's actually one of my favorite decks to play next to Saikano for Japanese Weiss. So I do have experience deck building and playing this set out, like just through and through. So the deck building process is pretty much kind of shortcut because I've already played it in Japanese. So what I'm going to show you guys is kind of stuff that I considered when I was playing it, when I was building it in Japanese. And the best part in English, it's pre-ban list. So unless this deck does get hit, you'll probably see this deck it's a pretty much standard list with a few texts here and there. So some things to consider, and I'll show it before I sleeve up the deck, that I've considered is Sensing Danger Yoshino, which is a anti-early play clock swap backup, and it's a level 1, so it has the same cost as Shaken Megami, which is discard this and 2 other cards, but instead of sending it to the waiting room, your opponent chooses a card from their clock, sends it to the waiting room, and puts a character whose level is higher than their level into that spot. So this is a clock swap anti-early play backup, and it's a 1k boot punch. Another card that you could consider is Basic Realizer. So this is your money counter for the deck, the anti-damage. So what it does is you can perform the following ability 3 times. It's a 3/3 backup. So you choose one of your characters, and that character gains the following ability. The character facing this gets -1 soul, so you can proc it on that same character 3 times, and it's a -3 soul lane. So your opponent literally has to trigger in order to push for damage under climax, which is really nice. That's one thing you could consider. You could consider playing the 4th My Little Shido. I'm playing 8 standby, so you actually are really tight on the color slot, and you don't want to play too much in order to clog up the consistency. So you actually only played at 3. If you don't know what My Little Shido does, it's basically choose one of your standing date or celestial spirit characters, tap it, and you get to choose one of the following abilities to perform. So the first one is a top 4 check, add a date or celestial spirit character from among them, put it to your hand, and send the rest to the waiting room. Choose one character that's level 1 or higher from that your opponent controls, and then choose one character level X and swap them choose one character that's level 1 level X or lower in your waiting room and swap them. So this is a level down. So the X is basically equal to that level minus 1. So I think you can go even lower if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that one. I'm pretty sure it's just minus 1 level. So this is your out to standby. Instead of having to play this right here, you could level down a level 3 or the standby target, or you can choose the third ability once your opponent has a level 3 character, which is if you have 6 or less cards in hand, choose one level 3 character, level 3 or higher character your opponent controls and bounces it. Oh wait, no. Wait, let me just double check. Oh, my bad. It's salvages. My bad. It's salvages. So the level down is what answers the standby. It answers the early play and the standby. My brain just farted when I was reading this. No. So if you have 6 or less cards, you can salvage a level 3. So this is your Swiss Army knife of for Data Life, and that's the reason why this card was actually on the pick list for the forbidden and limited lists. So it was between this, the 1-0 Toca, and the Kermie. So you can see why, because it's a level down. Top 4 check or a salvage. So you basically can either answers walls, salvages you a piece, or digs into your deck. So it's a really nice card. Another card that's also pretty good is the Shido Itsuka. You can play this at 4, but I prefer to play it to 3, so that's why you see only 1 out. So when it comes into play, you can choose one of your opponent's characters, they put it into memory, and then put it back on board at any position on stage. So this basically turns off climax combos, whether it's a minus soul wall climax combo or a Obero combo, which is where they bounce. So you can turn that off during your turn and basically guarantee that you're pushing for damage. And then the other effect is pay 1, send this card to the waiting room, top 4 check, add a date or celestial spirit character. So this is your selective milling for the deck. So it allows you to dig deeper and get closer to your first refresh. And these two pair really well because when you tap the My Little Shido after playing it, you just pay 1, send it to waiting room, and then you free up a slot for your standby or to play more characters. Another card I considered playing was the Hostile Toca, which is when it comes into play against
4,500
and the ability your opponent cannot play backups from their hand during battle and during this card's battle. So I can't even play it. But the thing about this is this is just a precision burn because on reverse, pay 2, burn 1. So it's a decent finisher. Another card that you could consider playing is the Sulking Toca. So this is basically against 2,000 for every marker that it has underneath this card. And when it comes into play, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a date or celestial character, put it underneath this card as a marker. So this is a 4K oversize that gets you deeper into your deck by 1 card. So that's why I considered it. But since this deck does already have a decent amount of blue, and you need more utility for standby, in my opinion, you don't necessarily need to play this. And since you do have My Little Shido, you increase more instances of it not getting the plus, so it's actually not safe to play at the moment. Another card I considered playing was the Drop Search Yoshino, but since this deck already has a lot of hand fixing, you really don't need it. But if you want to fit in something and you want to fit in a green package for your deck in order to play this event, you could play these and you pretty much have a substantial green count in order to play the event. So that's one thing you could do. Another card that I did consider playing, and I might put it back in after I test, is the Kotori Itsuka. So when she attacks, she gives another character plus 1k. that's fine. But the other ability that is really good is when she's sent to the waiting room, discard a card, reveal up to the top 4 cards of your deck, choose one level 1 or higher card, and add it to your hand. So this gets you any card that's level 1 or higher. So this is your On Death Chiori for level 1s, level 1 or higher, which is really nice, but not really necessary. So I actually felt like this deck does thin already substantially with the My Little Shido, Itsuka, the Cowgirl promo that this deck does have, and that's a trial deck card. So you actually do deck thin pretty decently, so you don't necessarily need this. You can play it as a flex spot, but right now I actually don't need it. And then lastly, you could also play this a spring moment Yoshino, which is a Adachi. So if it gets reversed and your opponent's character is higher than their current level, you can bottom deck it. Its first ability is what makes this card a really busted Adachi, which is at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you may pay cost, and if you do, choose one of your characters and this card, swap them and put them standing. So this is an Adachi that chases early plays. So you essentially can deal with early plays really easily with this card. So if My Little Shido does get hit, you can play this as a substitute. And then the last cards that I did consider was either a 4th copy of the Toca Tap 2 Search Brainstorm, another copy of the Kurumi Tokisaka, which I actually do run one of in the deck, which is if you have 2 or more Date or Celestial Spirit characters, it gains 1500 in ability on Reverse Memory Kick. It's an on-play heal, and it's a secondary finisher where the ability is pay 3, discard 1. Your opponent mills the bottom 5 cards of their deck, and you burn equal to how many climaxes revealed, and it gains plus 2k. So this becomes a 13-5 on its own, and with the level booster, it's a 15-5 lane, which is really nice. And then lastly, for the 2 cards, I would actually play the Hostile Toca at 2 if I wanted to, but from my personal experience, you really don't need this. It's a nice trick. It's a nice ability if you want to go up against compression based decks, but your deck already handles them pretty well, so it is an option to consider. And the only reason why I'm not playing it is because Memory Snow does exist, and it might get encouraged. People might be encouraged to play that build, and since that build has an anti-burn 1, it's actually not really safe to play it. And then lastly, the box topper promo, the Trying On Kurumi. So this card is actually a really busted card in most Stayed Alive builds, even pre and post, because you get to shuffle 2 characters back, and it can attack with side attack with no penalty, and on attack give a character plus 1500, which is really nice. So that's it for the cards that I would consider playing in this deck. So without further ado, let's just get on to sleeving it. Now we're going on to the actual sleeving part, where we sleeve up the deck. So I'm just gonna talk about like my thoughts about this set. So honestly, on release, I was actually really surprised about the price point that was popping up all over the web. If you guys paid attention to the Weiss Facebook groups and a lot of the Discord chatter, this deck the prices were like ridiculous. Now they're kind of starting to calm down, but the prices were just holy shit, just bonkers, just pure bonkers. So I was actually kind of glad that when me and my buddy split. It wasn't a case, sadly, because by the time the cases were sold out, but we bought basically 16 boxes worth of product. So basically through bundling, since our locals bundled a lot of the stuff. So even with a case, you're gonna get wonky ratios in English. That's just a matter of fact. So we were kind of just like hoping that we didn't miss out on this 3-2 Kurumi, which was at the time $50, by the way. as of recording, it's now 40. But we were like just like straight up sweating bullets. Luckily, we pulled about 9 copies, so we have an extra one, and my buddy has it. So it was just lucky that we managed to get this. So now I'm here to show you guys kind of the fruits of not only the split, but of my theory crafting. So I kind of like I mentioned earlier, I shortcut this process because I played Data Live in Japanese. And in fact, I can show you a comparison later on. I'll show you guys a picture of it later. So without further ado, let's get on to unsleeving it. So I picked up these nice Toca sleeves, since Toca is my favorite character in Data Live. I might do a mono Toca deck, a Toca waifu deck, if anybody likes to see that. But we'll have to see. So let's get on to the deck, the sleeving, shall we? So we're playing 4 copies of the Terrible Spirit Kermie. So it pairs with the Fearless Smile standby. So she gets the ability on play heal, and if you have 2 or more other Data Spirit characters, it gains plus 1000, so it's 10-5 on board if you fulfill the requirement. And with the climax, you get to choose one of the following abilities, which is, first one is your opponent puts all their stock into the waiting room and puts the top card of their deck into their stock. So it's a stock swap. So they put the same number back. So this is really good on a compressed deck where you're trying to take out as many potential cancels as possible. It also has another option where you shuffle 3 cards from your opponent's waiting room back into their deck, so it decompresses them. So if they're about to get refreshed, you can punish the refresh punish them for not refreshing during their turn, and pretty much guarantee stick 2 or more damage with just a snap of your fingers. And then the other card is choose 2 cards from your hand, discard them, and you get to deal 3, burn 3. So this is a Swiss Army knife finisher, and it makes sense since Kermie has multiple clones that she can finish in 3 different ways. So she's a 3-axis finisher on her own. So I'm glad I got her. So we will. So I'm kind of happy that I managed to pick up this deck. Honestly, it's a really good buy. Because since I already have it in JP, I knew how busted it was. Everybody practically knew how busted this deck was if they paid attention. So it was actually kind of just lucky that I managed to find a person that we could split a case, or in this instance, a case worth of boxes, and we managed to get this. So we each have 4 of it, so it's lucky. So I played 2 copies of the Itsuka, the standby, our level 3 standby target to save spirits Kotori. So you mainly use her for the generic 2k assist that she has. If you do manage to play her from hand, you do get to choose from 3 abilities, which is look up to the top 3 cards of your deck, choose one of them and send the rest to the waiting room, and then choose 1 character from your waiting room, return it to your hand, or all your other characters get plus 1001 soul. So this is a free climax when she comes into play, but you mainly use her to be cheated out from the standby. So we play 2 of her just so we can see her in the waiting room as often as we can, but not too often. We also play 2 copies of Dignified Appearance Toca, which is a early play healer. Her condition is 4 or more other date or other characters on board, and during the turn that she is played from hand, she gets plus 2k, so she's a 10-5 on play. So the reason why I'm only playing 2 of is she's not going to stick around long, and you really don't want to play her other than just from hand. So it's an early play where it's kind of meh. So One level 3 that I'm teching in as a secondary finisher is the Maids of Temptation, Origami, and Kermie. So this is an on-play heal, and it's a pay 5, discard 2, after this attack, restand. So this is a promo from Fujimi Bunko, and if you guys remember from my Fujimi Bunko video, I'll put the video in the info card right here. This card was in the set, and we do have another Kermie finisher from there, but albeit this card just power creeps that other finisher, so you really don't think about that one. So from Fujimi, you could play some other cards from Fujimi Bunko, but the one that really stood out to me was this, because it's still a precision attack since you're swinging for 2, and it's really good to play at level 2 as your standby out if you want to try to kill them from level 2. So that's a potential. That's one of the reasons why I play it, and it's blue. I just love this card, so I was like, you know what? I'll see if I can make it work in this deck. And then lastly, we play one copy of the Kurumi Tokisaki. So yeah, that's it for the level 3s. We play, I think, 10. 1, 2, 4, 6. Yep, 10. So that's 10 level 3s. And so for level 2s, we play 3 copies of the Under the Azure Skies Toca. So what this Toca does is she gains 1,000 for every other date character you control, date or celestial spirit character you control. And if this reverses an opponent's character by battle, you can check up to the top 2 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order. So this is a nutty level 2, and if you pair it with the school uniform Toca, you get to scry for 3 cards essentially. So if one of them was a climax on the attack that you revert during your opponent's turn that you reverse, if you have 2 climaxes or even a blank and a climax, you can put the blank on top with this Toca's ability, and then put that blank to the bottom with the scry ability, or you could scry first with this and then top 2 check and put the if you think the climax is if you're still within the ratio, so you can actually put the blank to the bottom, top 2 check, and then potentially put the climax to the top with this ability. So that's why you see it as, I played as a 3 because I don't want to hard cast it. 3 from testing and experience was the ideal number to play it at. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of the Free Fresh backup Kurumi. We managed to pull 2 foils of this, so me and my buddy have 1 of each. So that's it for the level 2s. For the level 1s, we play 2 copies of the 2K backup Toca, kind of generic 2K. We also managed to pull 2 copies of this, so each of us got 1 of the foil. I just kind of like to play foils in the deck if I can, because just kind of like to flex once in a while. So continuing on, we play 3 copies of the school uniform Toca. So this and the My Little Shido were on the choose one of 3 to put in your deck in Japan. And you can, and based on what I mentioned with the My Little Shido, it makes sense. With the school uniform Toca, the reason why it was such a threatening card was it paired with this Toca, which allowed you to manipulate your potentially 3 cards from the top 3 cards of your deck in order to increase the likelihood of canceling. So being able to just determine what kind of damage you could take during your opponent's turn was just, after the determine when to take damage, was just nuts. And the fact that this during your opponent at the beginning of your opponent's turn, it also had the ability to give a character plus 15, which made it even harder for your opponent to deal with that board. So they probably would be able to deal with one, but if you had multiples of these on the board, you actually made board states that were very problematic to your opponent, and this is why it's actually one of the main standby targets at level 0, because you can put so much pressure just at level 0 with this card, which is kind of nuts. So we'll sleeve up these. So we're gonna sleeve up the My Little Cheetos first, and then the Tokas. It's kind of sad though that they hit this card, because if I wanted to play a Toka waifu with the My Little Cheeto, I can't. So it does kind of hurt a little bit, but you really don't need to play it if you're gonna play Toka waifu. So continuing on, continue on, and or rather wrapping up my level 1s. We'll play our main standby target for level 0, which is the Great Interest Kermie. So this is basically Silica from Ordinal Scale, which has the ability, if you have 2 or more other characters, it gains 1500 and the ability Hand on Core. So the reason why you play this over the other standby target, which Data Live does have, which is the Toca, which has the ability it cannot be reversed by cost 0s. The reason why is since most likely you're going to be facing mirror matches in competitive events, that Toca actually doesn't, it's not useful, because you're most likely going to deal with cost 1 or greater characters, especially with Adventure Time, since they do play 2/2s. You find yourself the Toca not being necessary. So I find that the Kermie is a lot better in most cases, because not only it's a bigger body than that 1/1 Toca, but it's just better for mirror matches. So that's why we play it. And then now on to the level 0s. So we're almost done with this deck tech video, this table talk. So I'm just kind of want to wrap up my thoughts about this before I sleeve them up. Overall, I really do think that Data Live is gonna just be the #1 deck. Period. It's tier 0, but I feel like a lot of people do over exaggerate when they say English does not have a way to deal with this matchup. And I will say to them that it actually does. You just have to look through the set more, the English sets more carefully. And I do think people like PGH are correct where there's with their if you saw their post ban lists. Oh no, not the post Data Live meta discussion. I'll link it to the description below, or I'll pin it into the comment section for more information on how to deal with Data Live, because they did an excellent discussion on how the meta is gonna look. So I suggest looking at their content, because they're better at explaining the wider range of matchups that wider range of decks that can handle this than I do. So I suggest looking at their video if you haven't, but probably you most likely have watched it. But so honestly, I do like Data Live. That's why I picked it up. But it's like my #1 series, honestly. And I'm just glad that I got it in both JP and English. And that's why I see these Toca sleeves, because Toca, best girl in my opinion. Comment down below who do you think is your favorite girl in Data Live? Mine, if I had to pick my top 3, it'd be Toca, Kermie, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself since we don't have a set 2 yet. But Miku is my 3rd favorite. Just I love those 3 girls to death. So yep, so going back to the level 0, so we play 1 copy of the Trying On Kermie, because being able to shuffle back key pieces, at the early stages is really nice, and the fact that it can side for no penalty is really nice, since in most cases you kind of want to side certain boards to avoid being backed up. So just having that ability to maintain board state is just nice. Next we play 2 copies of the Happy Incoming Message Origami. So I play this because it's a climax swapper, so it's a pay 1, discard a climax, salvage a climax. So this allows you to get the correct climax for any instance you need it. So mainly you're just using this at the level 3 step to get the Fearless Smile climax, because you need it. If you can get it, why not just execute your opponent? And it also has the other on playability, reveal your hand, and all of your all your opponent's characters in the front row get minus 500. So this hurts Adventure Time because the Wildberry Princess is 500 power, and if they don't have a booster, you just clear that board with no problem. So that's why it's also really good at 2. But I mainly do it so I can see it often, see it when I need it. Next, we play 2 copies of the Swimsuit Kotori, which is an on-play top 2 check, and then rearrange it in any order. And it's also got another on-play ability: pay 1, discard 1, salvage a character, and then choose another character and give it plus 1k. So this is your main source of salvaging and hand fixing at the 0 step. Another character we play is 3 copies of the For the Sky and the Sword Toca. So this is your main brainstorm of the deck. There's a Kurumi tap self-search brainstorm, but the reason why you play this Toca one is because it's safe during a standby build. Because when you play it has the ability, when you play a climax, you can bounce this card to your hand and give another character plus 1000 to the end of your opponent's turn. So this helps you not only break boards, but set up walls on the crackback. So that's why you play it. Since we're kind of tight on slots, I play this as a 3 of. Ideally, you would want to play it as a 4 of, since this is going to be the main blue card that you level up with, because it's a 0, and it's easy to get multiples in the hand, 1 from her effect and 1 just from hard drawing it. So it's easy to get your source of blue that way. But since we're kind of tight on space, we're only playing 3 copies of this. I know this video is running very long. It's about almost about 32 minutes, but I just wanted to showcase a new format of deck profiling, I guess. So lastly, we play 3 copies. Not lastly, but we play 3 copies of the Shido Itsuka, and then the last level 0 we play is 4 copies of Confrontation with Humans Toca. So this is the Cowgirl promo for the Data Live version of the Cowgirl promo from Goblin Slayer. So if you don't know what this card does, it's an on-play ability, reveal. It actually has 2 on-play abilities, which is reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Date or Celestial Spirit character, add it to your hand, choose a card from your hand, and discard it. And then the second ability, which is also on play, so you can change the order depending on the situation. Discard a Date or Celestial Spirit character from your hand, draw a card. So this is the Cowgirl promo, but in a trial deck. So that's the reason why the trial deck's like $40 right now, because this comes in 2, and you need 4 in most Data Live builds, because this is your main form of hand sculpting and just deck thinning. So that's why you play it as a 4 of. So let's sleeve these last cards up, and then we'll just sleeve the standbys. So just continue on the conversation. I will be doing more discussions in the near future. I have a couple topics that I'm brewing in my head, maybe talking about the implications of Data Live in the metagame. Maybe I'll probably do a discussion of that, but I feel like that one's a little bit beaten to death by other YouTubers, so I feel like that's not necessary. Another one that I'm thinking about doing is it's going to be a collaboration with my buddy Jack from 36 Cancel. So once again, just shout out to him because he's been helping me out, and we've been collaborating, like just bouncing ideas off of each other for so long, and we've been we've just been playtesting buddies whenever we had the chance. He's one of my main playtesting people that I play. One of the main people that I play test with outside of my local circle. So it's just fun collaborating with him because his being able to just bounce off ideas from another player that's outside of my comfort zone is just a blessing. So yeah, like I said before, if you guys have any discussion topics that you guys would like me to talk about, please comment them below. Also, once again, if comment down below your 3 favorite Data Live characters, because this is a Data Live video and I want to kind of just keep it like that. Honestly, my thought on the anime, because I was able to read parts of the light novel and even up to the final volumes, it's probably one of my favorite series to be because it hits it's pretty much, it hits the right balance of comedy, fan service, and the lore behind it is so it's actually pretty deep. I wouldn't say as deep as other anime, but it's pretty interesting. And honestly, I just love the series for the wealth of waifus that it gives us, or gives any anime fan to just choose from, to say is that's their favorite character. So that's it for this table talk, this little deck brewing / table talk video. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Keep an eye out for more discussions and more deck profiles in the near future. I decided I'm just gonna oversleeve these later off camera because I feel like it's really not necessary and it would drag on the video way too long. So once again, this is Platinum Point. Don't forget to once again stay on point. Peace out, YouTube.